What are you nerdy about that isn't so mainstream? Roller Coaster Tycoon. I love that game to death. They don't have a version for Mac so I can't play. I could play that game for hours. I loved giving my theme park a little theme, then designing rides with specific colors and names to fit that theme. I didn't enjoy cutting down trees, though. Strangely enough, voice actors. Being able to recognize some of them just by the way they carry their voice is pretty dang fun. Me too. I'm annoying to watch cartoons with. I build wooden model ships. I spend hours reading about the best way to represent dolphin strikers, hounds, horses, nibbling, seizing, serving, and stropping. The only people I know who also enjoy my hobby are all at least 40 years older than me. That's sick. My hands are too jittery for that. World building. People should go check out our world building. Precious metals. Tell one interesting fact. Cartography. Particularly well-made fantasy maps. Love just gawking at them and letting my imagination run wild. So obviously this blue part is the land. Flags. So much history and symbolism condensed into a small piece of cloth. Vexillology. Harascape was pretty cool. Mythology. I freaking love mythology. Oh, I'm with you on that one. I'm particularly nuts for Greek mythology. I can't get enough. The history of science. As an electrical engineering student, I want to know who was the person currently ruining my life and why. I love reading about planes and how planes work. I once made a calendar when I was younger with dates of plane disasters, etc. I like Flight Simulator too. I'm terrified of flying though. Ham radio. Got my license at age 16, KB3HTS, so I could contact people from all over the world via radio. It's an archaic hobby and dying. Most of the people who do it are old men, but there are many niches that attract various people, and ham radio operators are often the first to provide communications during a disaster, so it will never die out completely. My favorite thing is to send out general CQ calls like Ellie Arroway does in the beginning of Contact and see who responds. Often in contests where you have to talk to as many people as possible in a weekend or whatever. I have set records in them, partly because I'm good at it and largely because when only 15% of the licenses are given to women, you'll get a lot of guys who will talk to you when they hear you. For anyone interested, check out our amateur radio. I sing in an opera chorus. I wish more people understood how amazing opera is. All the music is acoustic, so there is nothing like auto-tune between the performer and your ear. The emotions are raw. The singers these days are very good looking too. I'm really into voice acting, and I do quite a bit of it, including fan-dubs, animations, and audio dramas. There's a lot of people who don't even realize voice acting is a thing. Professional routers and switches and that stuff. Man, love to program them so that the network is safe and fast without spending too much. I need you to be my friend. I really know my underground comics. No, not those underground comics. The ones that are under even that ground. I go to comic cons on a no lines tour. That's where I go to every table that has no line and buy the book indiscriminately. The upside is I've given love to guys and girls who are really and truly just starting out. The bad news is I very often find myself in the trap of saying you probably haven't heard of it when discussing my favorite comics with other comic nerds. Aviation disasters and plane crashes. I'm no sure why I find them so interesting, but I can't seem to stop reading about them. MH370 was like a 10/10p star for you. The Reddit meter scene. It's kinda sad when you're so into a website that you're really into talking about how the site deals with itself. But I find all this stuff super interesting. Like, what kind of user makes up the average user? Can you count someone as a user if they lurk but don't have an account? Where does the majority of Reddit sit on some issues? Like the gender wars, how do people of site see the user base based on its stances? What is the real role of karma on Reddit? And is it an effective motivating force for quality? What is the effect of a thread's title or tone on the voting and commenting patterns of the comment section? What is the best time of day to comment or post in order to get the most karma? Does it differ based on content? Those are pretty crappy examples, but how Reddit works is really interesting to me. AskReddit. Indo-European languages. I'm taking Latin and it's freaking awesome. Awesome as fuckiness. That's number 1. Let's rotate the board. Home audio. It's really not that obscure or anything unique. It's just that I'm the only one I know within the people I know that actually gives a crap about it. Certainly the only one that obsesses over it. Audiophiles are a dying breed. I am on board. Wrestling. It is great, like a more physical soap opera. Right now, in the WWE there is a redneck cult fighting a modern day Superman as one of the feuds. It is absurd and awesome, and isn't even the second best storyline going. Not to mention the athleticism involved has gotten ridiculously high. He's got the whole world in his hands. Classical Latin. When I got into high school, they were offering it and I kept hearing all these things about how Latin can really help you with your SATs. I ended up taking it for all 4 years and 2 years in college. I'm continuing on in the spring semester of 2015. I got really into it, joined the Latin club, helped host the citywide contests, took the national exams, etc. Not enough people appreciate Latin. Everyone just calls it a dead language, but it's more alive than most people think. I actually spoke Latin when was I visiting the Pontifical Gregorian University at the Vatican and needed to ask directions to the bookstore. Everybody involved thought it was hilarious, so yeah, go to Vatican City if you want to find people who appreciate it enough to speak it. I love the mechanics of bowling. I don't even know how it works. Serial killers. Do you ever read the stories and think, PFF, if I was a serial killer I would have never made that mistake. I could totally kill more people than that. Yeah, me neither. I'm not only a language nerd, but I love translating things. I guess you could call me a translation nerd. The concept of converting someone's ideas in one language and translating them perfectly such as to express the emotion, intent, and tone in another is a fascinating process for me. Also, as any good nerd does, I admit I have a small elitist streak about translations. When I see something in English that reads poorly or sounds unnatural such that I can tell it was translated, it makes me frustrated. You only had to do a little more work to make it sound like it was written in native English. Ugh. Why? And when I see someone posts an article or something in another language and just say, use Google Translate, I go, no, it's not expressing the same tone and intent as the original. Give me something in French or German and I'll translate it. Like, if you ask me, could you please translate this for me, and I speak the language, it will be hard to say no. Mud. Are aquariums checking in? It's gaining traction these days, but chickens. I am a fire dancer and tribal belly dancer. I love learning about the history and evolution of tribal fusion within the belly dance community and how it evolved so much in such a short time. Awesome crap. Super Smash Brothers, Melee, L cancels, Wavadashes, DI, SDI, Tech Rolls, Drillshins, Wavashins, SHFFL, Wavelands, Short Thought Lasers, Res Combos, Frame Data, Jab Resets, Chain Grabs, Spacing, Combos, etc, etc. It is so deep and feels so smooth to play and execute. It has blown out all other games for me. It's funny how over time the game's hardcore gamers tend to go back to and play over and over other ones with the most exploitable bugs. I mean, the majority of what you mentioned were never intended to be used in gameplay if I recall correctly. Very similar to speedruns for Ocarina of Time. Speedrunning. I can't break 8:30 a mile. Swing and big band era music. I love to play it and dance to it. And then there's also Harry Potter fanfiction, which is fine when you're 15, but when you're approaching 30, it's not that mainstream. There are a lot of people who are older who write and read, but when you say fanfiction, people look at you like you're stuck in high school. Flying. There is just something about piloting a metal tube above the ground at hundreds of miles per hour. The corruption of champions and the trials and tainted space both are text adventures. My friend told me to tell you it's champions, not heroes. Philosophy. It seems like nobody really cares about philosophy anymore and talks far too much theology. I freaking love plants. I have a garden and I know the names to a bunch of native plants. When I go outside with my friends I am always spewing factoids at them about the plants that I see. Today I brought a plant to my class, literature, and made a bunch of people smell it. I think some people were scared. It smells like candy though. I have a ridiculously large Pez dispenser collection. I've seen larger collections online, but I've bought just about everything from the time I was 8 and I'm now 26. I'd like to start collecting some of the older stuff, but $20 to $100 per dispenser is too much for my current pay grade. Well, my love of history and various historic crafting practices has paved the way for my interest in the following. Traditional ethnic music and musical instruments. Think hide drums, lutes and throat singing, blacksmithing, historic arms and armor, traditional beer and mead brewing, mythology and folklore, mostly Germanic and Northern European as I find them fascinating, but recently I started reading a bit about Mongolian shamanism and various Eastern mythos. So yeah, I think the beer brewing is the most popular. Trapping. I'll be honest, I don't do it much anymore, but that was my childhood. I know way too much about serial killers. I guess it's getting more and more mainstream, but I am a huge nerd for designing circuitry. I especially love the older, esoteric components that aren't practically used anymore, like building state machines using basic logic gates, or playing around with RLC and op-amp filters. I also get a huge kick out of analog and digital signal processing. A lot of people do this for the money. I do it because I love it. I'm obsessed with architecture. I probably should have studied it in school. I'm constantly poring over the internet for mentions of new skyscrapers in my city, and my favorite Saturday-Sunday afternoon activity is to walk around the older parts of my city, very large and old, and ogle the little variations and styles that went into every brick, trellis, and carpentry. I would say manga, but that is probably the most mainstream nerdy thing out there. So I guess Roman history, IDKY, but I just feel the need and get a lot of enjoyment from rereading ancient Roman texts and Plutarch, Livy and such. Absolutely love aircraft. Been around them my whole life due to the fact that my dad is an aircraft mechanic for a major US airline. Been flying all over the states since I was 8 months old, and I caught the bug. Other nerdiness is about running. I know that it is mainstream, but I love studying about famous runners and techniques. Final one is scuba diving. Nuff said. Extreme music, hardcore, crust punk, several types of metal. I never run out of bands to discover and discuss. Sometimes I've had whole conversations just listing band names and what's awesome about each band. I'm the exact same way. Love finding out different bands that are not too well known and learn to appreciate their music, in a sense where they're all linked together but yet sound so different from each other, whether good or bad. It's amazing how they can approach their creativity. You have been visited by the Wealth Rat. Subscribe in 12 seconds and he will share his wealth with you. Thanks for watching. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video, or don't. Either way, have a great day, you magnificent people.